seems to be official. The Giants have fired Joe Judge a day after firing Dave Gettleman, which was not even a day too late, probably about 2 years too late. Joe Judge is the next Giant domino to fall. And yeah, when the reports came out that the Giants were going to keep Joe Judge and ultimately Daniel Jones for another year, it's just like, what are you doing? It's another year of not caring about being competitive, it seems like, and just being content with competing and working your tail off for 6 wins. Is that a joke? The Giants over the past several seasons, I've said this a million times. I pulled up the stat when I did my Giants rant video at the start of the year before they actually beat the Saints. They had the fewest wins in the league since 2016. It's 2022 now. And it's not the Jaguars, it's not the Lions, it's not the Texans. The Texans aren't even close. It was the Giants and the Jets, who I still think are in that same position. Fewest wins in the league since 2016. Just terrible. And the Giants seemingly have made no strides to actually get out of that position with keeping Dave Gettleman, who brought the Giants to, at best, a 6-win year. Last year, finishing second in the NFC East. The Jets, however, made multiple changes and had shown at least that they're ready to commit to the future and have shown strides, right? Even though they only came away with 4 wins this year, injuries really hurt them. But with the Giants, it seems like, you know, we're fine being the bottom dweller of the league every single year. And that's kind of where they have been. But it came out moments ago as I record this that the Giants are parting ways with Joe Judge. And man, I couldn't be happier about this news. Yeah, I will say it is always sad to see someone get fired because, you know, it is their livelihood or whatever. If he wants to, I'm sure he can get a job with another team, if not this year, sometime in the future, right? If not, you know, probably not as a head coach, at least for the time being. But it was a big step up, special teams coordinator, moving straight up to head coach. You know, it sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But at every turn, it seemed that Joe Judge was completely incapable of running a team and being the head coach and just being content with losing, it seemed like. And he'd rather lose by less points than be in a position to win. And that's with crazy punts. And I think yesterday kind of sums up everything. The Giants, completely dead season, only playing for pride at this point. I say yesterday, it was, yeah, Sunday, 2 days ago. 3rd and 9, backed up near your own end zone, but not on the goal line or anything. 3rd and 9, QB sneak to punt. Like, it's the last game of the season. What are you playing for? Field positioning at this point? Is this a joke? Try to actually act like you want to win. And time again, it seems that Joe Judge really didn't care about the result and just cared about the work they were putting in. And that's fine, right? Because the process is really important. However, results are more important. They just are in the league. Yeah, I mean, how can you discredit that? And there are certain quotes. I'm going to pull some up. But the gist of it is Joe Judge says results are overrated. He cares more about the process. Results are overrated. What do you play the games for? If results are overrated, why does winning matter? Yeah, results are overrated when you can't make the playoffs and you want to say anything to save your ass. Well, didn't happen. Fired, and rightfully so. Yeah, this is one of my favorite tweets. Things Joe Judge has actually said this year, seriously. Results are overrated. Punting can be aggressive is an all-timer. I remember that the actual context of the quote is that, so, Coach Judge, guys have critiqued you based on your lack of aggressiveness, punting in certain situations. Like the Giants, so many times. Inside both 40s, around midfield, on 4th and short, have punted, and for what? But he said punting can be aggressive too, because you're counting on your defense, blah, 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 blah. Punting can be aggressive? What are you talking about? Scoring points isn't always the goal on offense. Nate Solder, who has been one of the worst tackles in the league over the past few years since signing a massive contract courtesy of Dave Gettleman, has been horrible. So saying he's played really well is asinine. So even though it's a surprise, it's a welcome one, because maybe this shows that the Mara family, John Mara, owner of the Giants, actually might be committed to turning the ship around sooner rather than later. And yes, you still have to hit on your draft picks. You still have to be able to manage your money better. These things are not easy to do, as we've seen over the years with the Giants. However, now that they might be in play for some of these big name head coaches in a huge market, because the Giants remain one of the biggest teams fan base wise in the league and one of the most highly valued organizations, and for good reason. It's a major market, a team with a history of success, 4 Super Bowls all time, 2 in the last 2 decades, and 3 appearances since 2000. The Giants have been a team that has had the success over their history, but it's been completely, far from that lately. But who are the head coaches? I know naturally you guys would be like, well, who are the best candidates for the Giants to sign? And I think naturally that Brian Flores is one of the best options. How could he not be? He was excellent in Miami. There are some concerns with, how many feathers he ruffled, so to speak, and how he's going to get along with different management and things like that. But the first step for the Giants is not to sign a head coach. I know that seems crazy, but with Dave Gettleman being gone, you need to get a new GM ASAP. You need to replace him ASAP, and preferably from somebody outside the organization. There are a bunch of great candidates that people have mentioned. Dodds is, I think, someone that's going to be highly coveted that maybe the Giants aren't going to be able to get a shot at, but you never know. This article is from Pro Football Network. Yeah, Ed Dodds, I think, is probably going to be the most highly coveted GM on the market so far. I also wouldn't mind Thomas Dimitroff. Yes, I know it's like, it's very hard to think of the Falcons and, oh man, Thomas Dimitroff could actually be good. But I don't think the management was so bad. And he took the team to the Super Bowl, and of course they didn't win, but that was more clock management than anything. But I wouldn't mind Thomas Dimitroff. I think he would be a quality signing, but I think Ed Dodds would be the big one that I'm most interested in. I absolutely love Chris Ballard as a GM, and Ed Dodds being the right-hand man, I think has a lot of promise. So this is my #1 candidate for the Giants GM position. That's who I would really like for them to get. And of course, there's some other top options as well. Mike Borgonzi, Morocco Brown. I also wouldn't mind John Dorsey. Of course, he was former Chiefs and Browns. He is an executive with the Lions right now, but I don't think that would stop him from interviewing for the position if they wanted it. And you know what? For all of John Dorsey's faults, I think he's one of the best talent evaluators in the league. So for the Giants, who need to hit on more of their draft picks, especially in the first round, but also obviously outside of those first couple rounds as well, I think John Dorsey has a history of showing that he can do that. And the Giants just flat out need more talent on the roster. In the back end of the Jerry Reese era and then Dave Gettleman, the Giants had too many instances of spending high draft picks on players, and that's inside the top 3 rounds, and just not even having them be on the roster within a few years. And that's a major, major problem. As far as the coaching options for the Giants, I think any one of these coordinators would obviously be fantastic. They're incredible. Eric Bieniemy, Brian Dable, and of course Kellen Moore. These guys are really, really good coordinators and in line to become coaches. And even Dable and Bieniemy were last year. I think Moore is kind of the hottest name on the block this season. You talk about maybe the Giants DC Patrick Graham being in play. Matt Eberflus is a really quality candidate as well. Of course, I think it has to be talked about. If Patrick Graham is not elevated to head coach, which I think could certainly be in play, I don't think he's going to stay with the Giants. I just don't think that's going to happen, because if Patrick Graham's on this list, which he might be, Byron Leftwich is also real quality as well. I just feel like he's going to go back to Jacksonville. So for somebody, they requested to interview him. Of course, Byron Leftwich is a Jag. There's Patrick Graham. I've liked what he's done with the Giants. Their defense obviously wasn't great this past year, but they've shown that they can be good. Even just the year before this one, the Giants didn't have that bad of a defense, and they still don't have any true pass rush. So I think that's more of a talent issue than a scheme issue. But if the Giants pass on Patrick Graham and say, hey, we're not going to elevate you to head coach, I don't think he's going to stick around. I just think at that point, you're like, all right, the organization is never going to make me the head coach. So why would I bother staying here? So I think there's the option of him potentially moving teams, and maybe he sticks around as a DC for another year, interviews for coaching positions in the future. I think that's in play as well. We'll have to see. Probably wouldn't be stoked about Greg Roman, to be honest, or Wink Martindale, but I don't know. There are a bunch of interesting candidates. I think at the top of my list, the top 5 would be Kellen Moore, Brian Dable, Eric Bieniemy, Brian Flores, probably number 1 because he has the history of being a good head coach in the league, and then I think Byron Leftwich maybe. I don't know. There are a bunch of good ones, so there's a ton of potential. I wouldn't be mad about Matt Eberflus as well, or even Joe Lombardi. Like, there have been plenty of guys who seem to be interested in head coaching positions, obviously, and why wouldn't they, who are available this year. So I am hopeful for the Giants. I think that a change needed to happen, and with Joe Judge being fired, Dave Gettleman retiring, it's a forced retirement, basically what happened to Tom Coughlin, right? I think that the Giants could be in a good position. You obviously have to make the right decision with a new general manager. I think the red flags were clear with Dave Gettleman from the past, what he did in Carolina, and that was kind of, you know, glossed over a little bit. But just because Dave Gettleman had a history of being in the Giants organization did not mean that you had to go out and make him the GM. Just didn't, and they did it anyway. And I think if any of your mistakes can be learned from, you have to try and learn from those mistakes, and maybe look outside of the organization with someone who doesn't have a history of being on a losing franchise with the Giants, and not necessarily Dave Gettleman did. You know, 2 Super Bowls while he was on the in the scouting department in the back end. But I think he had to look outside the organization and get one of those GM candidates that I talked about. And then I think Brian Flores would have to be at the top of the list just because of what he did in Miami. And the Giants need a head coach like that. So I would certainly be in favor of him. I think he was a shock signing or shock firing by the Dolphins. And maybe the Giants, who were rumored to stick with Joe Judge, fired Joe Judge because they think they can get Brian Flores, who would be an immediate known upgrade. Maybe that could be true. Timing would fit, but that is a gamble that you're going to be able to get him. Not sure. I think with the history of Flores and wanting Deshaun Watson, maybe the Giants are thinking, okay, we'll trade our picks for Deshaun Watson, which I don't think would be a great move just because you need more talent on the roster, and they don't have that currently. I don't think it's a good environment for a quarterback to succeed. So this year, I think stick with Daniel Jones as a bridge quarterback, build up the rest of the roster, and look to go QB in 2023. That's currently what I would do. We'll have to see what ends up happening. Thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.
I hit it at the park, bend bones. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game, Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah, promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah, yeah. Papa turn, taking it back to the house. Defensive joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speedbird's good.